Spoiler warning. Consume at your own risk. Nightmare of the Wolf is an excellent spin-off to the main story of The Witcher. A prequel to the main series, we focus on Vesemir, Geralt's mentor, as he navigates the historic sacking of Kaer Morhen, the home of the School of the Wolf Witchers. The movie is very well animated thanks to being produced by Studio Mir, a Korean animation studio. The visuals pop, the action is amazingly fluid, and the visual storytelling elements of the medium are used to the fullest. The movie works very well with the version of the world established by the Netflix series. It showcases the potions the Witchers use, all of their tricks, their factional disputes with law enforcement, the Brotherhood of Sorcerers, and local governments, how they deal with the living, breathing biosphere of the Witcher monsters, and the agoge they go through in training to become Witchers. I say the version established by the Netflix series as a number of things do go unmentioned, such as there being more than one school of Witchers, though the School of the Wolf that was based in Kaer Morhen did go extinct after this, and that the Witchers stem from the Order of Witchers, a group of knights that helped humans colonize the continent by fighting monsters. This latter being particularly interesting, as in the movie, Vesemir only gets caught up in the main scheme when he fights and kills two knights that provoked him and Luca, his fellow Witcher. The movie does a great job with Vesemir as a character, showing him grow up from being a well-meaning and good kid to a swashbuckling and skilled Witcher, who deep down never lost that conscience. We see him go through the gauntlet of traumatic experiences involved in becoming a Witcher, gradually losing that softness he had and gaining combat strength in its stead. But we also see him having to cope with watching a new batch of recruits go through the same process, including a young blonde boy with freckles that our focus is repeatedly put on. Vesemir is highly effective even among Witchers, but he has never taken part in training newbies before, showing strong dislike for the process even in passing, and only taking part because the Witchers of Kaer Morhen are short-staffed. One excellent sign we have that Vesemir, despite all his disregard of children and swashbuckling valor, is still the kid with the conscience is his medallion. During his own trial of the grasses, the process in which Witchers are made, he and the other kids in his batch are dropped into the Red Swamp, home to a variety of monsters. Those that survive the night continue through the trial, but a large number of the boys die, including one by the name of Tomas. Not too long before being thrown into the Red Swamp, we had seen Vesemir comfort a crying and scared Tomas, promising him that he'll be okay. And yet, Vesemir can only watch as Tomas is dragged away into the swamp, leaving only a scarred medallion behind. A medallion he later takes from where it's hung on one of the pillars, and is seen wearing as an adult. He also instantly recognizes Lady Zerbst, one of the nobles that had been hip-deep in political machinations, as the servant girl Illyana that he had been in love with as a boy, more than half a century before. And he still has feelings for her despite their physical disparity and her need to now use him to cover his mistakes. So the plot of the movie is also a good weaving of a large number of through lines, from the mystery of the new monsters, to the political machinations between the nobles of Cadwyn and the Brotherhood's representative, to the romance, to the action of the siege, and the ambient dark fantasy tropes of the world of The Witcher. In particular, the mystery is very well done, with various clues being dropped and then woven into the conclusion. But it's heightened by the multi-directional standoffs all throughout the movie, such as between Filavandrel, Vesemir, and Tetra when Kitsu's mutant daughter is found. Finding Filavandrel held captive in Kitsu's lair, and evidence of her using sorcery to try and mutate other female elves, but also evidence of mutagenic alchemy having been used on her, Tetra has the evidence she came for, Filavandrel has his answers regarding the missing elves and freedom, and Vesemir is left with a moral quandary. However, upon a young mutated elf girl showing herself in the shadows, Tetra immediately wants to kill the abomination. Filavandrel steps in, taking the arrow, and Vesemir stops her from shooting another one. Filavandrel takes the girl, arguing for being at least left the indignity of scavenging what's left of his people, mutated or not, but taking Vesemir's warning, saying that if she hurts anyone, he'll kill her himself, and quietly welcome Vesemir and his blade. Really, the biggest strength of The Witcher series as a whole is the dark realism of the fantasy series. The themes of death and war and genocide are never too far beneath the surface, and the ecology and breadth of monster species makes the world feel grounded in a way that most fantasies are airy. The greatest weapon of a witcher is not the blades or the magic, but the knowledge of monsters and their weaknesses. As Deglin says the night Vesemir helps him, to slay a beast, you have to understand it. Choosing to present this dark and gritty fantasy in fluid, eye-catching animation was an inspired choice. It balances the dark realism of the world of The Witcher that Nightmare of the Wolf takes further with its themes of responsibility, cons and illusions, and loss, with the endless possibilities of animation and fantasy, striking a contrast between the reality of its themes and the surreality of its medium. One of my favorite moments is the confrontation that Vesemir has with his corrupt mentor, Deglin. It's an evenly matched confrontation of swords and ideologies, Vesemir denouncing Deglin's engineering of monsters while Deglin repeating that he did what was necessary to protect his boys. We later see him save Vesemir from being killed by Tetra, and as he himself dies, he passes the surviving recruits onto Vesemir, saying that they're his boys now, and that he should make witchers out of them, make them something more, better men. My other favorite moment is a payoff from earlier in the movie. As servant kids, Vesemir and Illyana fantasized about money, with Vesemir wanting to travel and experience the world, while Illyana wanted a simple life with a house by a lake. With Illyana being mortally wounded near the end of the movie, Vesemir takes her to a frozen lake near Kaer Morhen, thawing it just for her and laying her by the shore as the sun crests the lip of the horizon, allowing her beauty and peace at the end. And then he mourns her, alone with his strength, his power, and his helplessness. And that really leads me into what I think could be fixed about the movie, other than writers learning how to write siblings and some word choice being fixed. The big thing is, well, you see, Vesemir is the one that killed Illyana, albeit it's because of one of Kitsu's illusions. Near the end of the siege sequence, Illyana tries to intercede between Tetra and the guards who had cornered the mages of Kaer Morhen. Instead, she gets taken hostage as well as Vesemir drops through the ceiling, warning Tetra that he can take out all of the guards before their blades fall an inch, which is true. But Kitsu intercedes, trapping him in illusions made from his desires, for his childhood, for coin and booze, and for a life he never got with Illyana. Then he breaks out and seemingly dominates a fight sequence with Tetra, but this too is an illusion, and instead he killed the mages and Illyana. Although this is very well done, with each person's actions tracking and making sense once you realize who each person actually is. Like, the person he's fighting, Tetra, isn't being serious with killing him with the portals, just redirecting him away from her, and then you realize that Tetra was actually Rydrick. The masterstroke was having Illyana toss him his swords for the fight against quote-unquote Tetra, and then hide in a doorway, and then after the illusion drops, we see Tetra step out of that doorway. So Tetra, knowing about the illusion, tossed him his swords to help her kill the mages she meant to kill. It was very interesting and a great way of working the story to its already set conclusion. However, there is one piece that rankles. Kitsu's motivation is revenge upon Vesemir for killing her daughter and destroying her home, a story that Tetra fed her after bringing down the mountain herself. And Vesemir knew this. Tetra threw it in his face. And having that information, he's smart enough to guess at why Kitsu is there, and empathetic enough to say into the illusion that the girl they found is safe with Filavandrel, even if he doesn't give her the specifics. Also, leaving Tetra alone at a crime scene was a boneheaded move, since she is then your main opposition, no matter what internal issues and shock you may have to deal with. So instead, if this does not clash with any canon storyline from the books or video games I don't know about, you can have Vesemir restrain Tetra as he leaves the old elven school turned defunct garrison that Kitsu had turned into a lair. You can have her escape before or after he talks to Illyana about what happened, but she does need to escape for the Brotherhood to be the one to lead the sacking of Kaer Morhen. Then, during the fight scene with Tetra, you still have Kitsu be enraged by the tale of the death of her child, but have Vesemir tell her the truth, and have Kitsu escape after giving herself a little smokescreen. You then proceed with largely the same fight sequence between Vesemir and Tetra, but since it's actually Tetra, you make her a more competent, committed fighter, at least in relationship to her actual goal of killing the mages. For instance, you have some of his attacks just disappear into the portals she's using, and as she starts disorienting his charges with the portal, have him wound her and portal herself out, another portal opening behind him, and then have him stab at it as it fades, only for the misleading portal to have been placed in front of Illyana. You still have Deglin deal the final blow before sending Vesemir off with the toast, and as he runs out of the room, you show the mages dead of wounds from attacks Vesemir had thrown, and had been deflected through portals at them during the fight. You still get all of the same moments with Deglin and Illyana, you still meet the determined ending of the sacking and the extermination of the School of the Wolf, but you no longer have this foot-long splinter of Kitsu being left alive just because she didn't ask for this, even though she's the direct reason that everything went to trash. Just a thought. Now, the movie was fairly well received, getting 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, an average of about 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 67 out of 100 on Metacritic. It was even nominated for Best Animated Special Production at the 49th Annie Awards. It's referred to as an anime movie, but it's largely not because Studio Mir is Korean and it's based on a Polish story. The animation style is certainly the North Atlantic modern that is heavily inspired by anime, but most of the characters are done in a European or American style, which you can see from their actual human profiles. Only Tetra comes close to being in line with a Japanese style, which makes sense as the only full sorcerer in the movie. It's a great way of making her seem other, even if she's still human. The funniest line about the production was the fact that they couldn't make Vesemir too handsome, since he's got a mug only a mother could love in every other place that he's shown. But he still had to be appealing in this as the main character. And they certainly did well on that front. The man had style. But overall, it was a well-done and fun spin-off prequel that not only showed us Vesemir's journey to being a leader, but also, and we don't realize this until the end, it shows us Geralt's origin story. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Peace!